I'd like to welcome everybody to session C11, why you should move from Ontape to Onbar and backups from secondaries. Karen Qualley from HCL will be running this presentation for us. Go ahead, Karen.
Thank you, Bruce. This is a recorded session, so I will push play. And I may have to take, if there's questions, I may have to jot those down and get back to you on those. Amol unfortunately couldn't be on. So let me go ahead and start.
Hello, welcome to IIUG session 2021. In current session, we will be looking for the backups in secondary RSS server and the reason of moving from Ontape to Onbar. So objective and agenda of this meeting is to focus on what is the Onbar tool, brief discussion over the Onbar versus the Ontape tool, the advantage of Onbar over the Ontape tool, like what are the advantages provided by the Onbar tool versus the Ontape tool, the storage manager integration of Onbar. Now currently Onbar supports the couple of storage manager integration. So we will discuss what are the storage manager provided by the Onbar. Then next we will discussing on the Onbar and Ontape backups into the secondary server. So this is the new feature introduced into the latest Informix release. So we will be also discussing on the what are the user stories of Ontape and Onbar taking the backup into the secondary server. So we will move to the first point and discussion over the Onbar. So Onbar is an advanced backup tool provided by the Informix. It is the this get installed by default when you install the Informix server. Basically, Onbar is a shell script into Linux and Unix environment, and it is the bash script into the Windows environment. Then we will be moving forward with the discussion of Onbar versus the Ontape tool. In this topic, we will briefly discussing the user stories of Onbar and Ontape, and in which case we need to use the Onbar, in which case we need to Ontape tool. This is the compare. I highlighted the basically the most differentiable point between the Ontape and Onbar. So basically Ontape, the requirement is pretty clear. Like whenever, like when to use the Ontape and when to use the Onbar. Like Ontape is used when we need to pick up the backup and restore the data and enable you to change the login state. And yes, Ontape doesn't use any storage manager. So Ontape when used when we need to backup and restore data without the storage manager, backup without selecting the storage spaces. So Ontape take the backup of a whole the system. It does not provide the freedom to choose the different kind of a DB spaces. And yes, Ontape provide the change the logging mode of a database. For the Onbar, it is basically used when we need to backup and restore the DB spaces and logical file by using the storage manager to track the backup and storage media. So basically, Onbar has a couple of good advantage over the Ontape. Like Onbar provides the integration to the different kind of a storage manager. And first, then second one is that we can take the parallel backup and restore into the using the Onbar tool. Like if I wanted to take the backup of a couple of DB space and I want to restore the couple of DB space. Let's consider in tail we have the 10 DB spaces. If I wanted to take the backup of a 5 DB space and I wanted to restore 5 next different DB spaces, then this kind of a functionality is available, and Onbar is capable to achieve this kind of a functionality. So basically what it does is that it reduces the backup windows and it reduces the backup and restore timelines. So it also Onbar is fastest to recover So now we will be discussing on what are the advantage of Onbar over the Ontape tool. Like what are the benefits of using the Onbar over the Ontape tool? Like Onbar provides the storage manager integration to store the backup objects, So whenever we have the storage manager, then it gives the more control to the storage media and storage backup files. So also Onbar gives us a freedom to back up to the specific point in time. And like if we wanted to back up to the specific point in time, it is we can achieve this type of a functionality using the backup using the Onbar tool. So like just I explained before a couple of seconds ago, backup and restore different storage spaces in a parallel. So this is achieved into this is achievable into the Onbar tool. Like we can take the simultaneously backup and we can restore the simultaneously different DB spaces in a parallel. Also, Onbar tool provide us to select the different kind of a storage space. Suppose if I have the 10 storage spaces with me and I wanted to back up currently only 3 to 4 DB spaces. So we can specify the names while taking the backup, and Onbar will be backing up only those DB spaces. So this is the freedom and this is the functionality provided over the Ontape. Ontape doesn't provide us a freedom to choose the different DB spaces. So whenever you are using the Ontape, it is the whole backup of the system. You should not have right to choose the DB spaces to back. Also, Onbar provides us to restore the data to the specific point in time. Suppose I wanted to restore my data to particular point in time, then yes, this functionality is available into the Onbar tool. Also, there are a couple of more advantages of Onbar, like can we restart the restore into Onbar? Yes, if the restart is failed and we wanted to restart the restore, then yes, it is possible into the Onbar tool. And also we can monitor the performance of Onbar. So Ontape doesn't provide us a capability to check the performance, but yes, in Onbar you can see monitor the performance of that backup and restore processes. Then yes, then we will be moving to the next topic. These are the storage manager integration. These are the storage managers supported by the Onbar tool. So there are 4 to 5 storage managers are supported by the Onbar Informix tool. First is that Informix primary storage manager. It is mainly called as a PCM. So by default, when you install the Informix, it is provided with the Informix server. So second one is the HP Omni Storage Manager. The third one is the Amol Storage Manager. The fourth one is the Veritas Net Backup Manager. And the fifth one is the IBM Spectrum Protect. I think it is previously used to call as the Tabular Storage Manager. Now it is renamed to the IBM Spectrum Protect. So we will be moving to the next topic. It is the Onbar and Ontape backups into the secondary server. This is the new feature recently introduced into the Informix. Currently, it is in current released version. We have this feature available. So using the now previously Ontape and Onbar tools are only capable to take the backup into the primary server. So they don't had a capability to take the backup into the secondary RSS server. So now in this feature, we introduced the capability to take the backup of secondary RSS server using the Onbar and Ontape tool. So basically, user story of this feature is that consider that database server administrator has some geographically distributed server, like the primary is in American state and other secondary RSS node into the European state. In the event of RSS node need to be created, and DBA does not want it to have transfer of backups to the network. So DBA wanted to have the backup readily available into the remote location. So if they wanted to recreate the secondary RSS node, then by somehow they need to transfer the backup from primary server to the secondary server through the network. So DBA does not wanted to transfer those backups. So using this feature, they can readily use the secondary. They can readily use the backups using the Onbar and Ontape provided by the secondary server. Though also this feature will help us to reduce the load into the primary server. There is availability of a RSS server that has a lot less load and would like to use it to get backup is achieved. So Onbar and Ontape are capable to perform both storage spaces and logical log backup into the RSS server, secondary server. Yes, if we are talking about what kind of a backup is backups are took by the Onbar and Ontape tool. Yes, it is into the secondary server. Both Ontape and Onbar are capable to perform both storage space and the logical log backup into the secondary server. So backup taken into this fashion are targeted as suitable to restart the RSS server or any secondary server in a cluster in case they need to be recreated or reinstalled. Like I just explained, like what are the use of this backup into the secondary server using the Onbar and Ontape is that the backup took by using this fashion is they are suited to restore or recreate the secondary RSS server at a very high speed. Like if I wanted to transfer the backup from the primary server to the secondary server through the network, so it will consume a couple of time. It will consume the time to get the backup from the primary server. By using this feature, that we will have the readily availability of backup into the secondary server, and we can create the cluster, or we can recreate the RSS server very fast. So there are some current limitation, and there are totally replacing backup into the primary is doable, but could be dangerous and require a very knowledgeable person to perform it and to understand what are the traits of. Like if in the point of DPA, if they want, if question arises like if the backup took into the secondary using Onbar and Ontape are complete replacement of a primary. Answer is yes, but applying some limitations. Like currently in secondary server, we do not take the backup of blob spaces and non-logging blob spaces. So those spaces will be missing into the secondary backup. So there are some current limitations are applicable to these backups. So we have to keep in mind that yes, keep in mind these are not full replacement, but yes, it can be doable, but with current limitation. So this feature does not use the stop apply mechanism, and therefore can be expanded to SDR secondary server in this feature in the future. So currently the capability introduced into the secondary server using the Ontape and Onbar. So this feature does not use the stop apply mechanism. So we don't want it to stop the server and take the backup. So DBA will be able to take the backup in a normal situation without having to stop the server and to take the backup. So this stop apply mechanism feature is not used into this current feature. There are current couple of limitations. Limitations are there into the current release. So we will discuss about what are the limitations. The first limitation is current logical logs cannot be backed up. second-wise log slavage is not possible yet, mainly because the secondary server does not generate the server boot file. Like if you want to do the log slavage, then we must have the server boot file to do it. But in secondary server, we do not have create the or generate the server boot file. So this is not possible into the secondary server. The sysutil database is not updated while doing Onbar backup into the secondary server. Like while we taking the backup into the secondary server, the sysutil database are not updated. Like if we talk about how if consider in a general scenario, if we taking the backup into the primary server, in general scenario, we will have the IXBAR file updated and we have the sysutil database file updated regarding what are the information regarding the backup. But there is a limitation to the secondary backup is that the sysutil does not hold any information regarding the backup we took into the secondary. So we have to rely on the IXBAR file itself. So only RSS secondary servers are supported. So currently, only RSS secondary servers are supported to take the backup. So the question will arise if consider that if the HDR server or different kind of replication, different kind of backup server, then if by default we make this feature on, and if it is apart from the RSS server, then into the online log, the message or the error message or warning message will be printed saying that this server is not supported to take the backup using the Ontape and Onbar into the secondary server. So we will be discussing about the configuration parameter. So basically the configuration is a very easy and easy to set up. So just only one configuration parameter will be need to be set by the DBA. So by default, it is the bar sec allow backup. So by default, backups into the secondary server using Onbar and Ontape will be disabled, as this could lead to the logical log filling up. It is possible that LTAPE they will set to something different than the null device since the value is not important. So consider that by default, the backup into the secondary server is by default is off. If you want to turn it on, then only we have to set the bar sec allow backup is needed to enable or disable using the Ontape or Onbar feature. This parameter has a close interaction to the LTAP dev to control if the logical logs are dismissed or retained for the backup purpose. When bar sec allow backup is set to 1, Ontape and Onbar will be allowed to take the backup into the secondary RSS server. If consider that if the parameter is enabled in a server and it does not support backups, then an error will be written into the online.log and we will modify the value to the appropriate. So once suppose currently only RSS servers are applicable for the other HDR server or some different kind of a secondary server. If we try to make this feature on, so by default the error message will be printed into the online log, and then we will have to modify the appropriate value after that. Then this is the one more again configuration required. The cluster must contain at least one temporary DB space. That DB space must be listed into the DB space temp configuration parameter in the secondary server. Sorry. The temporary DB space is needed to store the before image of the page that are modified after the archive checkpoint is issued. Update secondary is not required for this feature to work. Like whenever we wanted to use the backup into the secondary using Onbar and Ontape, then at least the cluster must have at least one temporary DB space, and that temporary DB space must be listed into the config file of a DB space temp. So if I have the one temporary DB space, but if it is not set into the temp DB space of a config file, then this feature is not going to work. So what is the use of temp DB space is that whenever we need to store the before image of pages that are modified just before the just after the checkpoint is issued. So when the checkpoint is issued and the before images of the pages are modified, then those pages will be stored into the temporary DB space. So updatable secondary server is not required for this feature. So SQL connection required to the primary server. The Ontape and Onbar process requires also an additional SQL connection to the primary server in addition to the regular connection to the backup. If we are taking the backup into the secondary server using the Onbar and Ontape, then there will be one more additional requirement of a SQL connection to the primary server. So it will be the one. It will increase the connection to the primary server by one. The connection to the primary is needed to trigger the jumps to the next logical log using the sysadmin database and to generate some sequences. This is the reason why we need the connection to the primary server. So what are the commands and what are the commands supported by the Onbar and Ontape tool? Like these are the same set of commands which we use into the primary server. So yes, it is the same, means exact the same copy of a command which we use into the primary server. Suppose so there is no modification into the command made irrespective of primary server or secondary server, it will work like as it is. So I have listed the whole set of commands which are supported. Like in Ontape, if you want to take the level 0 backup using the Ontape, the first command will be used. And if we wanted to take the automatic backup of a logical log, then Ontape -e-d will be used. Then if you want to take the continuous backup of a logical log, Ontape-c will be used. So whenever we want to use the Onbar tool and we wanted to take the level 0 backup, then Onbar-b-l0 or -w will be used. So this is the, if you observe that this is the same exact set of a command which are provided into the primary server. So there is no change to any command to the secondary. So it works irrespective of a primary or the secondary. So if you want to perform the continuous backup of a logical log, then Onbar-b-l or -l-c will be used. If you have any questions, then please let me know. So if you if we see the overall through the DBA perspective of this feature, this will basically reduce the timeline of to generate the or to recreate the RSS node. So also it will reduce the load onto the primary server. So if DBA will be able to take the backup, recreate the backup into the secondary itself, then they do not need to transfer the backup from primary to the secondary. So it will save a lot of time and it will give us the more control to the DBA to recreate the RSS node very fast. Any questions, please? If you have any question, you can please ask. Thank you all. Thank you.
So hi, everybody. That concludes the recording. So I do see one question from Vicente. Which is the version when this feature is already available? Kevin, do you happen to know that off the top of your head?
I've unmuted Kevin.
Oh, that's nice. Thank you.
You just have to respond to the request to unmute. Maybe Kevin's not here. Really?
That's right. I put him on the spot, so. There's another question. Can I use the primary storage manager with this new feature? And so Bruce, we take a copy of the chat session as well, so we can get back to people.
That's what I'm trying to do here now.
Okay, all right.
Normally that doesn't get recorded with our recordings,
Okay,
but I will try to get it and get it to you.
okay, because I definitely can just take a quick screenshot or something just to.
That's all I'm going to do.
Okay, perfect. And I'll let you do that.
Let's see. Looks like we got a couple answers there from Doug Lowry, at least.
That. Right. I was thinking, I knew it was in XE6, but I don't know if it was in prior. Thank you, Doug, for those answers.
Unless somebody else has other questions, I think we're done with this session. And thank you for attending.
Thank you, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.